let's get growing. And I'm Jo Swan, the educational gardener at B.F.G, and it is the end of October pretty much by the time you pick your packs up. And so very excitingly today we're going to start with your packs. So this time you should have 4 packets of bulbs. So we've got some winter crocuses, some camassia, some irises and some alliums. So we're going to plant all of these in one pot in layers, and it's what's called a lasagna pot. And those of you who've been on the scheme since last year will probably remember this, and the idea is that we will have different plants, and they will flower. It will be sort of successional, so they'll flower at different stages to give us sort of a range of different colours throughout the spring and interest in the garden. So I've got some pictures. I've just cut my hand on something. So this picture here, these are crocuses, so they'll be one of the earliest to flower in late winter, early spring. And then we have some irises. So this is Iris reticulata, so this will flower a bit later on in the spring. A nice sort of bluey purpley colour with these little yellow flecks in it. And then we've also got some alliums. So these are like ornamental onions, so there's a lot of different varieties, but the one we've got is allium spirocephala. So spirocephalon, it's talking about, so cephalon is, well, it's Greek actually, but probably Latin as well, for head. So this is like talking about, the name of it is the shape of the flower, so it's sphere, so it's got a round sort of head, and it's a nice sort of pinky purple colour. And then we've also got some camassia. It's not the same kind of camassia as this one, but it will look similar to this. So we've got a range of bulbs, so I'm going to put them all in one pot. So I've chosen a pot that's quite big but not enormous. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to put some clay pebbles in the bottom because we've got some, but you could just use gravel or broken up plant pots, just so they've got a bit of drainage in there. And the next thing I'm going to do is put lots of compost in. So I've got a nice peat-free compost. So I'm going to do it in layers. So the first bulbs I'm going to put in are the camassia, because they're probably the biggest bulbs, so they'll need to be slightly deeper than the other ones. So just ignore, if you've got a packet with the pictures on, ignore that. I've just recycled the seed packets. So it's important to put them in the right way up. So the pointy bit, that's where it's going to shoot out, and then this bit here is where the roots are going to grow, so it needs to be this way up. So I'm going to put my bulbs in, spread them out. So I've done that, and then I'm going to put another layer of compost. So that's why it's a lasagna pot, which is what I had for my tea last night. Very nice. So next, if we look at, they're all roughly the same size. The irises are a bit bigger. So I've got my irises again. That's the shoot, and that's where the roots are going to come out. So pointy side up. And spread them out. Then I'm going to put another layer of compost on. My bulbs are getting a bit smaller. So crocuses, so these are quite a round shape, so you can see that one's starting to shoot already. So that's that side up. I think I'm just going to put these around the edge of my pot. So when these flower, that will be the first sign of spring, or one of them, which is something to look forward to. And then I'm going to go for another layer. I'm going to put my last bulbs in, which are the alliums. You can see they're like little onions. And again, pointy side up. A bit difficult to see which side up they are, but that's the roots, so should be okay like that. And then I'm going to put my final layer of compost on. I'm going to press them down. Probably what I would do is, if you've got any, is put a nice layer of leaf mould, well-rotted leaf mould on there, because bulbs really like leaf mould and they'll do a lot better. And somewhere I have a label, lasagna pot, so I know what they are because they're not going to come up for a bit. So hopefully you've still got your pots from last year, those of you who were on the scheme then, so you just need to give them a weed and maybe a feed in early spring, and you should have, and they should all come up again for you as well. So that's my lasagna pot done. And that'll be fine outside. They're kind of fully winter hardy, all of these bulbs. So now we're just going to have a quick look at some of the plants from previous packs. So this is my Angelica, which is grown very quickly. It's a very big plant, so this one's really needs to go into a bigger pot. So I'm going to get probably a pot that size. It's quite a bit deeper, and I probably won't have to do very much with it till the spring if it's in this nice big pot. So I put some compost in. Just going to check my levels. A little bit too much in there. I'm going to tip it, tease it out just a little bit, plant in the middle, and then put some compost around it. And then it will just want a drink. And the label back in. So that's the Angelica. Let's see. So the Nottingham catchfly, I didn't do anything with because I forgot about it. But I think this needs to go into smaller pots. So with this, I would be putting them into this size pot. So I like to use, this is a really good tool for doing a job like this. You could use a spoon. This one, I'm going to try and get it out without disturbing its roots. You can see. I'm going to put it in the middle with the compost around it. And that's my Nottingham catchfly. And I'd do that. I wouldn't bother with this one. So sometimes, and I wouldn't bother with that one either. I'd just choose the strongest plants if I were you. And that's definitely one of the stronger plants there. And sometimes it's just good to sacrifice some at this stage, especially if you don't need them all. So I'm going to have a little look at my hollyhock. That's fine for now. Its roots are starting to come through, but around here, but it's okay for now. The things that are romping away are the broad beans, a bit too much really. So they definitely need something doing with them, I think. Let's have a look at their roots. Oh, the compost is falling away, so they're not that desperate. But yeah, look at that. So with these, you either want to get them into the ground or put them into bigger pots. So I'm going to put one into a bigger pot and the rest I'm going to put into the ground. But if I put one into a bigger pot, we can see how it's doing next time. That's my bit of bean. Have a look at my strawberry, which wasn't actually part of the pack actually, but I did show you how to propagate them. See, that's done brilliant, and I probably would put that one into a bigger pot. It's just the same principle. And compost around it. You don't want to do strawberries too deep, otherwise they'll rot. You want the crowns to be above the compost level, really. Take a little bit of that out. And then the sweet peas have not germinated yet. And I can't see any roots underneath, so we'll give them a bit more time. The lettuce, I did say I was going to plant this into the polytunnel beds, but I didn't. But it's still okay. But it does need something doing with it. So what I might do with these, because this is something that you could do at home, is put them into a pot. Might put 3 into this pot as a bit of an experiment. Because if you haven't got ground at home, that is something that you could do. Just tease that out a little bit. And you can just take off a few leaves as and when you need them. And it'd probably do them good actually to cut some of the leaves off and get a bit of new growth on them. You could just do them as like cut and come again. Most lettuce you can do that with if you wanted. Okay, and then what else have we got here? So the Jacob's ladder, it's kind of got, you remember last time it didn't have true leaves? Well, some of these have. So probably what I would do with these is I would do them into something like this to start with, because they're so tiny. Move that. So I'm going to fill my tray up. And then I'm going to prick out a few to show you. Take a clump out. They really are very tiny and very fiddly. So again, there's quite a few plants there, so again I would just be choosing the ones that I thought were the strongest plants. It's got a decent sort of root system on there. So then I'm going to dib a hole, drop it in the middle. The hardest bit is this bit, separating them out without damaging the roots. Okay, so you kind of hopefully get the idea of what I'm doing there, and then water them with a fine rose with a label on so you know what they are. And then there's just a couple more things. I think that's the land cress, which I put into a bigger pot, and that's, you could repot that if you wanted. So what I haven't done with this is harvest any of it, so I'm going to take these bigger leaves off, and then you can eat them. You could have them in a sandwich with some egg, a bit like you would cress. and that'll regenerate. It's probably better to do that with a pair of scissors. Oh, I did have some scissors. It's always good to make a clean sort of cut. And then there's also the parsley, flat leaf parsley, which is kind of romping away. So again, with this one, I take some leaves, some of the bigger leaves off, harvest them and use them. I'm going to take, so I've harvested them. And the last thing, I think, is cabbage in a pot. Look at that. So probably what you could do with this is, if you don't need a lot of cabbage, you could just take off a few of the outer leaves, so the bigger leaves as it grows, and cook with them. I would normally put that in the ground, but it's an experiment as this one. It seems to be doing okay. The rosemary. The rosemary is a bit sad, isn't it? The leaves are a bit yellowy. It has got some new growth on here because we trimmed them back last time. Just wondering whether to take a bit more off there. Just look a bit. I'm going to take that middle. It's just growing a bit sort of upright, and I want it to bush out, so I've taken the central stem down in the hope that it will bush out a little bit. So that's it. There's a lot of stuff. So I hope you're all enjoying your packs, and it will be really good to see some pictures. We've been a bit quiet on the Facebook page, but it would be nice if you share some pictures or want to share some stories about your successes or your failures. Okay, thanks for watching. Happy gardening. Bye.